Alina Winters stood at the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Harmony, watching the swirling purple atmosphere of Nylath Prime grow larger in the view screen. After 15 years of deep space signals and careful message exchanges, humanity was finally about to meet their first advanced alien civilization face-to-face. Nervous, the gruff voice of Security Chief Marcus Kane broke through her thoughts. The weathered veteran leaned against the railing beside her, his cybernetic eye whirring as it adjusted to the planet's glare. Terrified, Alina admitted with a slight smile. But the good kind of terrified, like standing on the edge of something momentous. Kane nodded, his expression softening slightly. Just remember your training, and remember we've got your back. The ship's AI chimed in through the speakers. Diplomatic Officer Winters, the Nylathi delegation is ready to begin docking procedures. Your presence is requested in the reception chamber. Alina straightened her formal diplomatic uniform and took a deep breath. Time to make history. The reception chamber was a marvel of human engineering, a perfectly neutral space designed to accommodate a wide range of atmospheric conditions and gravitational preferences. As Alina took her position at the center of the human delegation, she could see the Nylathi ship through the transparent docking tube, its organic-looking architecture a stark contrast to the clean lines of human vessels. First Officer Joe stepped up beside her. All systems nominal, environmental parameters matched to Nylathi specifications, medical team standing by just in case. The docking procedure went smoothly, and Alina's heart raced as the airlock cycled. The inner doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the Nylathi delegation. They were beautiful in an alien way, tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Their large, multifaceted eyes seemed to take in everything at once. The lead delegate stepped forward, raising 4 of its 6 limbs in what their previous communications had established as a greeting gesture. I am Speaker Valera of the Nylathi Consensus, the alien's translator device conveyed in perfect English. We come in peace and friendship. Alina stepped forward, mirroring the gesture as best she could with her human limbs. I am Diplomatic Officer Alina Winters of the United Earth Government. We welcome you in peace and friendship. The formal greetings proceeded exactly as planned, both sides carefully following the protocols established over years of message exchanges. Alina felt herself starting to relax as they moved to the conference room for the first round of face-to-face discussions. That's when everything went wrong. The ship's AI's voice cut through the ceremonial atmosphere. Its tone shifted to urgent alert. Multiple unidentified vessels detected dropping out of FTL. Energy signatures do not match known configurations. Security Chief Kane was moving before the AI finished speaking, positioning himself between the delegates and the nearest viewport. How many? 7 vessels, Chief Kane. They are not responding to hails and warning. Weapon systems detected powering up. The Nylathi delegate's skin rippled with patterns that Alina's cultural training identified as extreme alarm. Speaker Valera turned to her, multifaceted eyes reflecting the emergency lights. These are not our ships, Diplomat Winters. We have no other vessels in this sector. They're not ours either, Alina said quickly, mind racing through options. Chief Kane, we need to. The first impact cut her off, rocking the Harmony violently. Artificial gravity fluctuated as emergency systems engaged. Direct hits to our primary shield generator. First Officer Joe's voice was tight but controlled. 2 more vessels emerging from FTL. Through the viewport, Alina could see sleek, dark ships moving into attack formation. Their design was like nothing she'd ever seen, almost crystalline in structure, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Speaker Valera, Alina turned to the Nylathi leader, we need to get both delegations to safety. Will you trust us? The alien's skin rippled through complex patterns before settling on a deep, determined purple. We have no choice, Diplomat Winters. Our ship is smaller and less defended than yours. Kane was already coordinating with security teams through his neural link. Officer Joe, get both delegations to the emergency command center. I'll coordinate defense from the bridge." Another impact rocked the ship. The AI's voice was grim. "Shield integrity at 60% and falling. Unknown vessels are jamming our long-range communications." As they hurried through the corridors, Alina's diplomatic training kicked in from a different angle. This wasn't just a crisis. It was potentially the defining moment in human-Nilathi relations. How they handled the next few hours could determine the future of both species. "Speaker Valera," she said as they ran, "I give you my word that we will do everything in our power to protect your people, but we need to work together." The Nilathi leader's translator crackled with interference as another hit rocked the ship. "Agreed, Diplomat Winters. The consensus grants me emergency authority to cooperate fully." They reached the emergency command center just as the lights flickered to emergency power. The room was designed as a fallback bridge, hardened against attack and equipped with redundant systems for ship control. First Officer Joe immediately moved to the tactical station. Multiple hull breaches on decks 5 through 8, security teams engaging boarding parties. Elena's blood ran cold. "Boarding parties." "Affirmative." Kane's voice came through the comms, punctuated by weapons fire. "They're unlike anything we've seen, some kind of biomechanical troops. Standard weapons are barely slowing them down." One of the Nilathi delegates stepped forward, skin pulsing with urgent patterns. "Speaker, these match the descriptions from the Lost Colony attacks." Valera's translator conveyed alarm. "Impossible. Those were myths, stories to frighten children." "What Lost Colony attacks?" Elena asked, but before anyone could answer, the ship's AI cut in. "Warning, unknown energy signature detected in main engineering. Systems are being accessed by an unknown protocol, unable to contain breach." Joe's hands flew over the tactical controls. "They're not just attacking us, they're collecting data, breaking through our encryption like it's not even there." Elena looked at Valera, saw the same realization in those alien eyes. This wasn't random violence. These attackers had waited for this exact moment, the first meeting between humans and Nilathi. But why? "Speaker Valera," Elena said, "I need to know everything about these Lost Colony attacks. Right now, we're not two species trying to establish diplomacy, we're survivors trying to stay alive." The Nilathi leader's skin shifted to a deep, resonant blue. "The stories say they came from beyond the void between galaxies. They took entire colonies, left nothing but empty ruins and corrupted computer systems. But this was thousands of cycles ago, before we achieved space flight." Another violent shudder ran through the ship. Joe's voice was grim. "We've lost main engineering. Weapons are down to emergency power, hull integrity failing on multiple decks." Elena's mind raced. Standard diplomatic protocols were useless here, but perhaps. "The Nilathi ship, it's still docked with us, correct?" "Yes," Joe confirmed, "but it's a diplomatic vessel, barely armed." "But it has different technology, different systems," Elena pressed. She turned to Valera. "Speaker, could your ship's systems interface with ours, create something these attackers haven't seen before?" The Nilathi's skin rippled with thoughtful patterns. "It is possible, but risky. Our technological bases are very different." "Riskier than doing nothing." Elena gestured at the tactical display showing more enemy ships arriving. "Whatever these things are, they're not here to talk. They waited until our species finally met to attack both of us at once. We need to work together or we both die here." Valera's skin shifted through several rapid color changes before settling on a determined violet. "You are right, Diplomat Winters. Technician Karel, begin the interface procedures." The next hour was controlled chaos as human and Nilathi engineers worked frantically to merge their systems. Kane's security teams fought desperate holding actions against the boarding parties, falling back deck by deck. The enemy ships continued their assault, but seemed more interested in data collection than destruction. Elena split her attention between coordinating with Valera and monitoring the tactical situation. The Nilathi leader proved to be quick-thinking and adaptable, offering suggestions and solutions that would never have occurred to human military doctrine. "Interface complete," Joe announced finally. "But we have no idea what will happen when we activate it." "We know what happens if we don't," Elena said, looking to Valera for confirmation. The Nylathi leader's skin pulsed with agreement. "Activate the merged systems," Valera ordered. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ship's AI spoke in a strange, harmonized voice that somehow combined human and Nylathi tones. "New protocols accepted, implementing hybrid defense systems." The tactical display lit up with new energy signatures as the merged technology created effects neither species had seen before. The enemy ships actually pulled back, seemingly confused by the unexpected development. "It's working," Joe reported. "Their systems can't adapt to the hybrid technology fast enough. We're getting weapons back online." Elena felt a surge of hope, but kept her diplomatic mask in place. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was the first true cooperation between their species, forged in crisis. "Speaker Valera," she said formally, "I propose we continue this cooperation. Whatever these attackers are, they clearly fear our species working together." The Nylathi leader's skin rippled with what Elena was learning to recognize as grim humor. "Agreed, Diplomat Winters. It seems the universe has forced our hands. Our first contact will be remembered not for formal ceremonies, but for fighting side by side." As if to punctuate her words, the hybrid weapons systems fired, driving back another enemy attempt to breach their defenses. The mysterious attackers were slowly withdrawing, apparently unprepared for united resistance. But Elena knew this was just the beginning. The real questions remained. Who were these attackers? Why had they waited for this moment? And what would humanity and the Nylathi do when they returned? For now, though, she allowed herself a small smile. First contact had gone wrong in every way possible, but perhaps it had gone wrong in exactly the right way to forge a stronger alliance than any amount of careful diplomacy could have achieved. The real work was just beginning. Commander James Rodriguez stood in the ruins of the ancient Nylathi outpost, his environmental suit sensors struggling to analyze the strange crystalline growths that covered the walls. Beside him, the towering form of Kavor, chief xenoarchaeologist of the Nylathi Science Council, pressed specialized scanning equipment against the corrupted technology. "These patterns," Kavor's translator device hummed, their iridescent skin shifting through shades of deep concentration. "They match the corruption signatures from the attack on the Harmony 3 weeks ago." James ran his gloved hand over the crystalline surface, watching as it seemed to absorb the light from his suit's illuminators. An installation abandoned for thousands of years, showing the exact same technological corruption as a modern attack. That can't be coincidence. The discovery of this outpost on the edge of Nylathi space had been a breakthrough. After the attack on the first contact meeting, both species had been desperately searching for answers. When Kavor's team discovered references to this location in ancient records, the joint human-Nylathi investigation team had rushed to investigate. "Commander," Lieutenant Petra Novik's voice crackled through the comm, "you need to see this. We've found something in the lower levels." James glanced at Kavor, who was already packing their scanning equipment. "Lead the way, Lieutenant." They descended through the partially collapsed structure, passing more of the unsettling crystalline growths. James had seen enough combat to recognize weapon damage when he saw it, but these ancient blast marks were like nothing in either species' arsenal. They found Novik and her team in what appeared to be a data storage facility. The room was dominated by a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with faint internal light, the first sign of active technology they'd found in the ruins. "It activated when we entered the room," Novik reported, her dark eyes intense behind her faceplate. "Started interfacing with our systems, but differently than the attackers did, almost like it was waiting for us." Kavor moved forward, their specialized sensors extending toward the crystal. "This is impossible. This technology. It's neither Nylathi nor human, but it's not the same as our attackers either. It's something else entirely." The crystal's pulse quickened as Kavor approached. Suddenly, the air filled with holographic projections, ancient Nylathi text interwoven with mathematical formulae that James's suit computer struggled to translate. By the consensus, Kavor's skin rippled with shock patterns. "This is a warning left by the Guardians." "Guardians?" James moved closer, watching as his suit system slowly processed the ancient data. "A myth," a legend from before our recorded history. They were said to be the first species to achieve interstellar travel, who seeded the galaxy with the building blocks of civilization. Kavor's translator struggled to convey their excitement. But they were supposed to be just stories. The holographic display shifted, showing star maps and trajectories that spanned millions of years. James felt his breath catch as he recognized the implications. "They knew," he whispered. "They knew we'd both evolve, both achieve spaceflight, both eventually meet. This wasn't just a warning, it was a message meant specifically for our two species finding it together." Novik stepped forward, her scientific background evident in her precise questions. "But warning us about what? And why these specific species? Why humans and Nylathi?" The crystal pulsed again and new images filled the air. They showed massive ships, dark and crystalline like their recent attackers, but the scale was almost impossible to comprehend. Behind them, entire galaxies went dark. "The Void Harbingers," Kavor translated, their skin paling to an almost translucent state. "The ancient texts speak of them, but we thought they were parables about the dangers of technological overreach. They're supposed to be the opposite of the Guardians, beings that consume civilizations, transform them into something else." James watched as the holographic display showed world after world being transformed, crystalline infections spreading across entire planets. Not parables, history, and now they're back. The crystal's next pulse brought forth more detailed technical data. Kavor and Novik both began recording frantically, their specialized equipment capturing terabytes of ancient knowledge. "This explains their attack pattern," Novik said, reviewing the data in real time. "They target civilizations at specific developmental points, especially first contact between compatible species. They harvest the unique technological and biological developments, add them to their own." "Compatible species?" James turned to Kavor. "What makes humans and Nylathi compatible?" The alien scientist's skin rippled with complex patterns as they analyzed the data. "According to this, our species developed along parallel but complementary paths. Humans evolved to be adaptable, innovative, capable of immense technological leaps. Nylathi evolved to be methodical, understanding the deeper patterns of space-time, developing technologies that work with natural laws rather than forcing them. Together," James realized, "we could achieve things neither species could alone, like when the Harmony merged human and Nylathi systems to drive off the attack." "Precisely," Kavor's translator conveyed grim satisfaction. "The Guardians didn't just leave us a warning, they left us a blueprint. Our species were meant to find each other, meant to work together, because together we might have a chance of stopping the Void Harbingers." Suddenly, the crystal's pulsing became erratic. New warnings flashed across their suit displays. "Energy spike," Novik shouted. "Something's coming through the local space-time fabric." James didn't hesitate. "Everyone out, back to the ships now." They ran through the collapsing ruins as reality itself seemed to twist around them. Behind them, dark crystalline growths began spreading with impossible speed, consuming the ancient outpost. They reached their ships just as the first of the massive dark vessels appeared in orbit. Unlike the smaller attackers they'd faced before, this was clearly a capital ship of the Void Harbingers. They were waiting, James realized as they lifted off. They knew this place existed, knew we'd find it eventually. They just couldn't get to the data themselves because it required both species working together to activate it, Kavor finished. The Guardians built in safeguards. The knowledge could only be accessed by humans and Nylathi working in concert. Their ships accelerated hard, breaking orbit, as the massive dark vessel began deploying smaller craft. But something was different this time. The hybrid defensive systems they'd developed after the Harmony incident were holding up better, as if the ancient data had already begun improving their technology. "Commander," Novik called from her station, "I've finished the preliminary analysis of the retrieved data. It's not just technical specifications. There are coordinates, star maps dating back millions of years, including the location of something called the Guardian Forge." James exchanged looks with Kavor through their view screens. "A weapon." "More than that," Kavor's skin rippled with excited patterns. "If I'm translating this correctly, it's a facility capable of merging technologies in ways even the Void Harbingers can't predict or corrupt. The kind of place where two species working together could create something entirely new. Their ships jumped to FTL travel just as the Void Harbinger vessels entered weapons range. They'd escaped with the data, but James knew the real race was just beginning. "Send everything to both Earth Command and the Nylathi Consensus," he ordered. "And get me a secure channel to Alina Winters. She needs to know what we found." As their ship streaked through hyperspace, James studied the ancient star charts. Somewhere out there was the key to survival, not just for humans or Nylathi, but for all species that might one day achieve the stars. They just had to reach it before the Void Harbingers caught up with them. Kavor's voice broke through his thoughts. "Commander, the preliminary analysis suggests something else. Something the Guardians left specifically for our species to find." "What is it?" "A name. They called it the Dawn Protocol, and according to these readings, we've just initiated its first phase." James watched as more data scrolled across his screens, each piece fitting together like an impossibly complex puzzle. The Guardians hadn't just left them weapons or technology. They'd left them a plan that had been waiting millions of years for precisely this moment. Now they just had to survive long enough to see it through. Fleet Captain Diana Morrison stood at the tactical display aboard the UES Defiant, watching as another red indicator blinked out. The Centauri colony, home to 3 million humans, had just gone dark. "That's the fourth colony this week," her XO, Commander Richard Torres, said quietly. "Same pattern as the others, all communication lost within minutes, followed by that crystalline energy signature." Diana's jaw tightened. The Void Harbingers weren't just attacking anymore. They were systematically isolating both human and Nylathi territories, cutting off colonies from their homeworlds. And despite everything they'd learned from the Guardian Archive, they were still barely holding their own. "Status of the Nylathi Defense Fleet?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Scattered like us," Richard replied, bringing up the latest intelligence. "They're losing outposts even faster than we are. The consensus is having trouble maintaining unity among their systems." A flash of movement caught Diana's eye, Lieutenant Olivia Chen, their communications specialist, straightening suddenly at her station. "Captain, priority message from Earth Command. Admiral Patel requests immediate conference." Diana nodded, already moving toward the secure briefing room. "Patch it through. Commander Torres, you have the bridge." The holographic projection of Admiral Patel materialized as Diana entered the room. The usually stoic leader of Earth's combined fleet looked haggard, with dark circles under her eyes. "Captain Morrison, I'll be brief. The Void Harbingers have changed tactics. They're not just taking colonies anymore, they're converting them. We've received footage from automated drones near Centauri. The entire population, they're being transformed." Diana's blood ran cold as the Admiral shared the footage. The crystalline infections weren't just consuming technology anymore, they were changing people, turning them into something that was neither human nor machine. "It gets worse," Patel continued. "The Nylathi consensus is fracturing. Several of their outer systems are talking about surrender, thinking they can negotiate with these things. We need someone to convince them that unity is the only option, and your ship is the only one that's successfully merged human and Nylathi technology." "With respect, Admiral, I'm a fleet captain, not a diplomat." "You're whatever we need you to be, Captain. The Defiant is the symbol of what our species can achieve together. We need you to rally both sides before it's too late." Diana studied the tactical display, mind racing through possibilities. "What about the Guardian Forge? Commander Rodriguez's team is still searching along with their Nylathi colleagues, but we need to buy them time." Patel's expression hardened. "You have full authority to negotiate on behalf of Earth. Whatever it takes, Captain, just get it done." The transmission ended, leaving Diana alone with the weight of two civilizations on her shoulders. She took a moment to center herself, then headed back to the bridge. "Set course for the Nylathi border system of Verkath," she ordered. "Maximum speed." Richard looked up from his station. "Ma'am, Verkath is one of the systems threatening to surrender." Exactly, and it's where Speaker Talrin, the leader of the separatist faction, is holding court. Diana's voice carried the steel of command. If we're going to prevent a collapse, that's where we start. The Defiant streaked through space, its hybrid engines pushing the boundaries of what should have been possible. Diana used the time to study everything they knew about Nylathi politics, preparing for what might be the most important negotiation in human history. They arrived to find Verkath in chaos. Dozens of Nylathi ships clustered around the main space station, their designs varying widely, evidence of how far the outer systems had diverged from consensus standards. Multiple weapons locked on us, Lieutenant Chen reported. They're demanding we identify ourselves. Open a channel, Diana stepped forward. This is Fleet Captain Diana Morrison of the UES Defiant. We request immediate audience with Speaker Talrin regarding the Void Harbinger threat. There was a long pause before a response came. A Nylathi voice translated through their systems. Your request is denied, human vessel. This is an internal matter of the outer systems. Speaker Talrin, Diana said, gambling that the separatist leader was listening. I have footage from the Centauri colony that you need to see. What happened there will happen here if we don't stand together. Another pause, longer this time. Finally, you may dock, Captain Morrison, but only you and one aide may board. Richard immediately protested. Captain, this could be a trap. Everything's a trap these days, Commander. Diana managed a grim smile. Have Lieutenant Chen prepare the Centauri footage for presentation. You're with me. The Nylathi station's architecture was a stark contrast to the elegant designs Diana had seen in consensus space, more utilitarian, with visible modifications and repairs. It spoke of a people who had learned to be self-sufficient, often at the cost of beauty. Speaker Talrin proved to be older than Diana expected, their skin showing the muted patterns of age. They were surrounded by representatives from various outer systems, all watching the humans with mixtures of suspicion and curiosity. You waste your time, Captain, Talrin said without preamble. We have seen what happens to those who resist the Harbingers. The outer systems will not sacrifice themselves in a futile war. Diana nodded to Richard, who activated the holographic display. Watch, she said simply. The footage from Centauri played out in horrible detail. The crystalline infections spreading through streets, the transformation of civilians into hybrid abominations, the systematic destruction of everything that made the colony human. This is what surrender looks like, Diana said into the stunned silence that followed. The Harbingers don't want allies or subjects. They want raw material to convert and consume. But they promised to spare our people if we submitted, one of the other representatives protested. They lie. The new voice came from the station's entrance. Diana turned to see a Nylathi she recognized from intelligence briefings, Security Director Melver of the Consensus Guard. Director Talrin's skin patterns showed surprise. How did you get through your security the same way the Harbingers will because you're too divided to maintain proper defenses? Melver moved into the chamber. I came to stop you from making a terrible mistake. Captain Morrison simply got here first. Diana seized the moment. The Harbingers targeted our species when we first met because together we're a threat to them. The Guardian Archive proved that, but divided, we're just raw materials waiting to be harvested. She brought up new tactical displays showing the pattern of Harbinger attacks. Look at their strategy. They're not just isolating colonies, they're specifically targeting places where our species have worked together. They fear cooperation more than any weapon we've developed. The chamber erupted in argument, Nylathi representatives talking over each other as their skin patterns shifted rapidly. Diana waited, watching Talrin. The old leader's patterns had shifted to something she hadn't seen before. Finally, Talrin raised their hands for silence. You speak of cooperation, Captain, but the consensus has ignored our needs for decades. Why should we trust them now? Because I'm not asking you to submit to the consensus, Diana said. I'm asking you to help create something new, something that serves both our species, core worlds, and outer systems alike. She activated another display, this one showing the Defiance hybrid systems. This ship represents what we can achieve together, but it's just the beginning. We need your innovation, your independence, your different perspectives. Unity doesn't mean uniformity. Melver stepped forward. The consensus is prepared to offer the outer systems full autonomy in internal affairs, in exchange for military cooperation against the Harbinger threat. And Earth, Talrin asked Diana directly. Earth is prepared to extend its defense treaties to all Nylathi systems, outer and core worlds alike. Full technological exchange, mutual defense obligations, joint development of new technologies. The chamber went quiet as Talrin considered. Their skin shifted through complex patterns that Diana's training couldn't quite interpret. Finally, they spoke. The outer systems have survived by being practical, Captain. Show us that cooperation can work. Show us that your ship's hybrid technology can truly defend against the Harbingers. Then we will discuss unity. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Chen's voice came through Diana's comm. Captain, multiple Harbinger signatures detected dropping out of FTL. They're on an attack vector. Diana looked at Talrin. Looks like you'll get your demonstration sooner than expected. Will you help us defend your people? The station rocked with the first impacts. Talrin's skin shifted to battle patterns. Our ships are at your disposal, Captain. Show us what unity can achieve. The next hours were a blur of combat and coordination. Diana found herself commanding a mixed fleet of Earth and Nylathi vessels, their different technologies and tactics slowly learning to work together. The Defiance hybrid systems proved invaluable, helping bridge the gap between different command structures. When it was over, the Harbinger ships had been driven back, though at a cost. Several ships from both sides were lost, but the station and its thousands of inhabitants had been saved. In the aftermath, Diana stood with Talrin and Melver, watching recovery operations through the station's observation deck. You have your demonstration, Talrin said quietly. The outer systems will join your alliance with full autonomy as promised. And the consensus welcomes their strength, Melver added, their patterns showing sincerity. Diana nodded, but her mind was already on the next challenge. We'll need to move quickly. The Harbingers will be back with greater numbers, new tactics. We need to get our combined fleets organized, establish joint command structures. She was interrupted by an urgent message from the Defiant. Captain, priority communication from Commander Rodriguez's expedition. They've found it. They've found the Guardian Forge. Diana looked at her new allies. Are you ready to make history? Talrin's skin rippled with what Diana was learning to recognize as determined amusement. Lead the way, Captain. It seems the real war is about to begin. As they moved to respond to the new development, Diana felt a mix of hope and trepidation. They'd achieved unity, but at what cost? And would it be enough to face what was coming? The answer, she suspected, waited for them at the Guardian Forge. Chief Engineer Marcus Chen stared in awe at the massive structure before him. The Guardian Forge hung in space like a dream made real, a sprawling complex of impossible geometries and pulsing energy fields that seemed to bend reality around it. The combined human Nylathi fleet looked tiny in comparison, their ships dwarfed by the ancient facility's scale. By all the stars, breathed Master Builder Venra beside him, the Nylathi engineer's skin shifting through patterns of wonder. The legends didn't do it justice. They stood in the Forge Explorer's observation deck, leading the joint engineering team assigned to unlock the facility's secrets. After Commander Rodriguez's discovery, both species had rushed their best technical minds to the site. Now, with Void Harbinger forces closing in from multiple vectors, they were in a desperate race against time. The internal scans are complete, reported Dr. Natalia Wang, her holographic display showing layer upon layer of complex systems. The Forge's power core is still active, but it's operating at less than 1% capacity. Most systems are in hibernation mode. Marcus nodded, studying the readouts. The Guardians built this place to last millions of years. They must have known someone would eventually need it. He turned to Venra. What do you make of these energy signatures? The Nylathi engineers' specialized sensors extended, analyzing the data. They're similar to our quantum harmonics technology, but far more advanced. It's like they found a way to write new laws of physics. Which explains why the Void Harbingers can't corrupt it, Natalia added. Their crystalline technology works by subverting natural laws, but this place, it operates on a completely different level. Marcus was about to respond when the station's AI chimed in. Alert! Long-range sensors detect multiple Void Harbinger capital ships entering the sector. Estimated time to arrival, 6 hours. That's sooner than expected, Marcus muttered. He activated the command channel. Bridge, this is Chen. We need more time. Fleet Captain Morrison's voice came back tense but controlled. How much more? Marcus looked at his team, saw the same calculations running through their minds. At least 12 hours to understand the basic systems, probably 24 to get anything combat ready. You have 5 hours, Morrison replied. After that, we'll have to start pulling people out. The combined fleet will buy you as much time as we can, but... She didn't need to finish. Everyone knew the odds they faced. The Void Harbingers were coming with everything they had, determined to destroy the forge before it could be used against them. Understood, Captain. Chen out. He turned to his team. All right, we need to work smart. Venra, take your specialists and focus on the power core. Dr. Wang, your team has the weapon systems. I'll coordinate from here and work on the main control interfaces. They split up, racing through the ancient facilities corridors. The forge was a maze of advanced technology, every surface covered in controls and displays that responded to both human and Nylathi touch. It was as if the Guardians had designed it specifically for their two species to use together. Hours passed in a blur of discovery and frustration. Marcus coordinated between teams, slowly piecing together how the facility worked. They made progress, but not fast enough. Chief, Natalia's excited voice broke through his concentration. We found something in the weapons database. It's not just a forge for creating weapons, it's a template library. The Guardians left us their complete military technology archive. Marcus rushed to her position, studying the displays. Can we access it? That's the thing, she said, fingers flying over the controls. It needs both human and Nylathi input simultaneously. Like everything else here, it was designed for cooperation. He quickly contacted Venra, who joined them moments later. Together, they initiated the access sequence, their different biological patterns creating a key that unlocked the ancient database. The displays lit up with designs that defied comprehension. Weapons that could redirect solar flares, shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, drives that could fold space itself. This is it, Marcus breathed. This is how we fight back. The facility shuddered. The AI's voice was urgent. Alert! Void Harbinger forces have arrived ahead of schedule. The combined fleet is engaging. Marcus grabbed his tablet, downloading as much data as he could. How many ships? Initial count indicates 37 capital ships and over 200 support vessels. They are deploying some form of space-time disruption field. Through the observation windows, Marcus could see the battle beginning. Human and Nylathi ships moved in coordinated patterns, their hybrid technologies giving them an edge, but the sheer number of Harbinger vessels was overwhelming. We need to get something working now, he said. Venra, what's the status of the power core? The Nylathi engineer's skin pulsed with frustration patterns. We've restored power to 30% of systems, but the main forge facilities are still offline. We need more time. Another impact rocked the facility. The AI reported, combined fleet suffering heavy casualties. Void Harbinger forces are attempting to establish a containment field around the forge. Marcus studied the weapons database, looking for something, anything they could use immediately. His eyes caught on a particular design, and an idea formed. Dr. Wang, what if we don't try to forge new weapons? What if we use the forge itself as a weapon? Natalia's eyes widened as she caught his meaning. The power core, if we reverse the quantum harmonics. We could create a localized reality inversion, Venra finished, their skin patterns shifting to excitement. Turn their own space-time disruption field against them. They worked frantically, reconfiguring systems that hadn't been active for millions of years. Outside, the battle grew more desperate. The combined fleet was fighting brilliantly, using every trick they'd learned about working together, but they were being pushed back step by step. "Fleet Captain Morrison," Marcus called over the command channel, "we need you to get every ship into a specific formation. We're going to try something crazy." "Crazy is all we have left, Chief," Morrison replied. "Send the coordinates." As the fleet moved into position, Marcus, Natalia, and Venra made the final adjustments. The Forge's power core hummed with energy it hadn't channeled since the age of the Guardians. "Ready," Natalia reported. "Energy patterns aligned," added Venra. Marcus took a deep breath. "Fleet Captain, on my mark, I need every ship to fire everything they have at these coordinates. The Forge will amplify it." "Understood," Morrison's voice was steady. "All ships' reports ready." The Void Harbinger fleet pressed closer, their crystalline ships forming a sphere around the Forge. Their space-time disruption field was almost complete. "Now," Marcus ordered. The combined fleet fired as one. The Forge caught their weapon fire, channeled it through systems that rewrote the laws of physics, and released it in a wave of pure possibility. Where it met the Harbinger's disruption field, reality itself seemed to fold. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the crystalline ships began to crack, their corrupted technology unable to handle the paradox they'd been trapped in. One by one, they shattered like glass sculptures in a vacuum. "It's working," Natalia shouted. "The reality inversion." The Forge shuddered violently. Warning signals blared across every display. "Power core overload," Venra's patterns showed alarm. "The systems weren't ready for this level of energy." Marcus worked frantically at the controls, trying to contain the cascade reaction. "Fleet Captain, get your ships clear. The Forge is going critical." "Not without my people," Morrison replied. "Prepare for emergency evacuation." The next few minutes were chaos as ships docked with the Forge, evacuating personnel as systems failed around them. Marcus stayed at his station until the last moment, downloading every bit of data he could from the Guardian archive. They barely made it to the Forge Explorer before the facility's power core went critical. From the ship's observation deck, Marcus watched with his team as the ancient structure twisted in impossible ways, then vanished in a flash of light that seemed to bend around itself. When the light faded, both the Forge and the Void Harbinger fleet were gone, leaving only scattered crystalline debris drifting in space. "Did we get enough?" Natalia asked quietly, clutching her data tablet. "From the archive." Marcus checked his downloads, then looked to Venra, who was doing the same. The Nylathi engineer's skin showed cautious optimism. "We got something better than weapons," Marcus said, studying the files they'd managed to save. "We got understanding. The Guardians didn't just leave us their technology, they left us the principles behind it. The Forge was never meant to last. It was meant to teach." "And now we can build our own," Venra added, their patterns shifting to determination. "Together." Marcus nodded, already seeing the possibilities. The Void Harbingers had lost a significant portion of their fleet, but they weren't defeated. They would return, probably with new tactics, new weapons. But now humanity and the Nylathi had the knowledge of the Guardians, and more importantly, they had proof that they could face any challenge if they faced it together. "Send everything to both Earth Command and the Consensus," he ordered, "and get me a secure channel to Admiral Hayes. The real work is just beginning." As the Forge Explorer joined the rest of the fleet, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. They'd lost the Forge, but they'd gained something far more valuable, a future worth fighting for. Now they just had to build it. Admiral Victoria Hayes stood on the bridge of the UES Vindication, watching the final preparations for what might be humanity's last battle. The massive ship, first of its kind, represented everything their combined species had achieved in the 6 months since the Guardian Forge's destruction. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of 25 years of fleet experience. Her XO, Captain Michael Aucaffer, brought up the tactical display. Combined fleet is in position, Admiral. 832 vessels total, 315 human, 297 Nilathi, and 220 hybrid ships built with the Guardian archives. Victoria studied the formation. After the loss of the Forge, both species had thrown everything they had into implementing the Guardian principles they'd managed to salvage. The result was a fleet unlike anything either civilization had ever fielded. And the enemy? Long-range sensors confirm over 2,000 Void Harbinger vessels approaching from multiple vectors, Michael reported grimly. They've adapted to our reality inversion tactics. Their fleet includes at least 50 of their World Killer-class ships. High Commander Ralvex of the Nilathi Defense Force, appearing via hologram, added, "Our deep space probes confirm they've abandoned all other campaigns. They're committing everything to this attack." "Because they know what we've built," Victoria said quietly, looking out at their secret weapon. Hanging in space behind their fleet was the culmination of both species' combined knowledge, the Unity Sphere. Nearly as large as Earth's moon, it was a masterpiece of Guardian principles merged with human innovation and Nilathi insight. "Final engineering report from Chief Chen's team," Michael announced. "The Sphere's systems are online at 97% capacity. They're ready to begin the sequence on your command." Victoria nodded, then opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Hayes. You know what we face. The Void Harbingers have consumed countless civilizations across multiple galaxies. They've turned entire species into components of their endless expansion. Now they've committed their full force to destroy us, because together we've done what no other civilization has managed. We've learned to fight back." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But today isn't about fighting. The Guardian Archive showed us that the Harbingers can't be defeated through conventional warfare. They adapt, consume, and grow stronger. Today, we're going to try something they've never encountered before." The tactical display updated as the first wave of Harbinger ships dropped out of FTL. Their crystalline vessels seemed to absorb the light of nearby stars, creating an effect like a moving void in space. "All ships maintain formation," Victoria ordered. "Remember your training, trust your allies. We only need to hold them off long enough for the sphere to complete its cycle." The battle began with a fury that would have been unimaginable just a year ago. The Void Harbingers attacked with overwhelming force, their improved weapons attempting to corrupt and consume everything they touched. But the combined fleet was ready. Human ships demonstrated the tactical flexibility they were famous for, while Nilathi vessels employed their mastery of spacetime to create defensive screens that the Harbingers couldn't easily penetrate. The hybrid ships, crewed by both species, served as force multipliers, coordinating the fleet's efforts with unprecedented efficiency. "First line holding," Michael reported as explosions lit up space. "The Harbingers are probing for weaknesses, but the Guardian-based shields are adapting faster than they can corrupt them." "Energy spike," Lieutenant Commander Wei called from sensors. "They're deploying some kind of new weapon." Victoria watched as strange, fractal patterns spread out from the Harbinger fleet, attempting to rewrite the laws of physics themselves. But something was different this time. Admiral Ralvex's patterns showed excitement. The sphere, it's responding. The Unity Sphere had begun to pulse with a deep, resonant energy that seemed to stabilize reality around it. The Harbinger's attempt to corrupt spacetime simply washed away, like waves against a shore. As predicted, Victoria allowed herself a small smile. The Guardians didn't just give us weapons, they showed us how to heal reality itself. But the Harbingers weren't finished. Their world killer ships moved into position, preparing to unleash their full destructive potential. "All ships fall back to secondary positions," Victoria ordered. "Begin Phase 2. The combined fleet executed a complex series of maneuvers, drawing the Harbinger forces into a specific formation. It looked like a retreat, but Victoria knew better. Everything hinged on positioning. "Sphere power at maximum," Michael reported, "ready to initiate the sequence." Victoria opened a channel to the Unity Sphere's control center. "Chief Chen, are we ready?" "Yes, Admiral," Marcus Chen's voice was steady. "Master Builder Venra and Dr. Wang have confirmed all systems are aligned, but there's something you should know. The power requirements, someone will need to remain aboard to manually maintain the field coherence." Victoria closed her eyes briefly. They'd known this might be necessary. "Understood, Chief. Begin the sequence." The Unity Sphere's pulse changed, becoming deeper, more fundamental. The space around it began to shimmer with possibilities. Admiral Wei's voice was urgent. "The Harbinger fleet there, changing." The tactical display showed it clearly. Where the sphere's influence touched the crystalline ships, something unprecedented was happening. Instead of corrupting or destroying, it was transforming. "It's working," Ralvex's patterns showed awe. "The Guardian principles, they're not just defeating the corruption, they're revering it." Victoria watched as the transformation spread through the Harbinger fleet. Their ships weren't being destroyed. They were being returned to what they had once been, before the corruption that had turned them into the Void Harbingers. "Multiple ships powering down," Michael reported. "We're detecting life signs, different species, technologies we've never seen before." "The peoples they consumed," Victoria realized. "We're not just stopping the Harbingers, we're freeing everyone they've taken." But the remaining Harbinger vessels fought back with desperate fury, their world killers charging weapons that could tear reality apart. "They'll destroy everything," Ralvex warned, "including the freed ships." Victoria's decision was instant. "All ships protect the transformed vessels. Chief Chen, prepare to overload the Sphere's core. Let's finish this." Admiral Chen's voice was calm. "It's been an honor." The Unity Sphere's pulse reached a crescendo. Victoria watched as its energy expanded in a wave of pure possibility, touching every Harbinger ship in the system. The world killers tried to fire, but their weapons turned inward, their corruption consuming itself. When it was over, the battlefield was filled with transformed ships, their crews beginning to wake from what must have felt like a nightmare. The Void Harbingers were gone, not destroyed, but returned to what they had been before the corruption took them. The combined fleet began rescue operations immediately, human and Nilathi ships working together to assist the freed vessels. Victoria coordinated it all from the Vindication's bridge, even as she mourned those who had given their lives to make it possible. Hours later, she stood with High Commander Ralvex, watching the rescue efforts through the bridge windows. "The Unity Sphere's destruction was always part of the plan, wasn't it?" Ralvex asked, their patterns showing understanding. Victoria nodded. "The Guardians knew that true peace couldn't come from a weapon. It had to come from understanding, from choosing to help instead of harm. They gave us the tools, but we had to decide how to use them." And now, the Nilathi commander's patterns shifted to curiosity. "We have ships full of species we've never encountered, technologies we don't understand." "Now we do what we do best," Victoria smiled. "We learn, we adapt, we help them rebuild together." She turned to look at the stars, thinking of Alina Winter's first contact, James Rodriguez's discovery, Diana Morrison's diplomatic victory, and Marcus Chen's final sacrifice. Each step had led them here, to a moment when two species chose to face the darkness not with more darkness, but with light. "Send word to Earth and the consensus," she ordered. Tell them the dawn of unity has arrived." As rescue ships continued their work, Victoria Hayes watched the freed vessels begin their journey home. The Void Harbingers were gone, but they had left behind a legacy far different than they intended, proof that the greatest power in the universe wasn't corruption or consumption, but cooperation. The real work was just beginning, but this time they would face it together. And somewhere, she liked to think, the Guardians were watching with approval as their long-laid plans finally bore fruit. Not in victory through superior weapons, but in triumph through understanding, compassion, and the simple truth that unity was stronger than any force that sought to divide. The dawn of a new age had arrived, and its light would shine across the galaxies, carrying a message of hope to all who saw it. Together, we are stronger than darkness. Together, we can heal what was broken. Together, we can forge a future worthy of the stars themselves. The end.